Hey, give it up for your host, everybody. Kirsty Hayden, huh? How you guys doing? You all right? Good to be here with y'all. A little bit about myself. I'm a Texas man. I'm from right here in Texas. I like being a Texan, you know. I think my favorite thing about being a Texan, I love being pandered to by pickup truck commercials. Y'all into that shit? I don't know if you can gather from looking at me, but I'm not a man who gets a lot of compliments on my work ethic in my day-to-day life. Nobody ever assumes I might have ranching to do. Gotta go to the truck commercials for that kind of positive talk. You know what I mean? Every Texas truck commercial is basically the same. There's like a ruggedly handsome cowboy in a pasture. He's been working hard out there, you know, you can tell. He throws a bale of hay into the bed of a gleaming new pickup truck. And then in slow motion, he wipes his brow against the setting Texas sun, you know? Voiceover says something like, as a Texan, working hard is in your DNA. Watching along at home, just stoned off my ass. Eating a zebra cake for breakfast at 1:30 in the afternoon. Like, holy shit, finally a little truth in advertising. Finally a truck company who isn't scared to tell it like it is. I love those commercials, man. They do wonders for my self-esteem. Frankly, I think it's a shame you only ever see the real Texas commercials for real Texas products, you know? Things that, frankly, Texans already really love. Pickup trucks, various brands of chili, Dairy Queen. That's a big one. That is what I like about Texas. Come to think of it. But it doesn't gotta be real Texas shit, you know? I would say you could sell anything this way, right? Like imagine that same commercial, the ruggedly handsome cowboy from Before He's Back. He throws the hay into the truck, only this time in this commercial, instead of wiping his brow against that setting sun, he itches his asshole a little bit. Voiceover says something like, as a Texan, you need a Japanese bidet toilet that works as hard as you do. Introducing the Takahashi X3200 Mega Toilet. Texas edition. That Texas edition, you know, that's a bit of an upsell. Nobody's really sure if it's worth it. You know, all that means they put a little lift on it. You gotta go up a little step ladder to take a shit from now on. Not the most convenient thing in the world, but fucking very Texas. Put some brown leather there on the tank, give it like an overall Western feel, you know? And then the pièce de résistance, when you flush it, a robot voice sings Amarillo by Morning. And a voice that's both beautiful and haunting in like a sci-fi movie kind of way. Like after the robots have won. I actually worry like this one specific type of advertising works too well on me. You know, I feel like I'm pretty savvy when it comes to every other kind of advertising that we have, you know, except for this one, this Texan. If you just appeal to my Texanness, I feel like I could be sold anything. Like, I like to think of myself as a man who will not, in his life, smoke PCP. It's like, what if they came out with a real good commercial for it? You know, like, just for us Texans? Had a guy in Wrangler jeans and like a pearl snap shirt standing near a barbed wire fence. That guy seemed to think it was a good idea. I don't know if I can say no to him, you know? That Texas voiceover voice, my God. He puts the cell on, saying stuff like, did you ever want to feel like God for a spell? Introducing the PCP bench. When you get a Texas-sized hankering to take all your clothes off and Greco-Roman wrestle an entire police department, there's just no substitute. PCP. be sold anything, you know? That's my point. Damn voice. Church of Scientology. I don't know. My hometown is right here. I'm from right here in Dallas. Thank you. Yes, woo. That line, I tell you, that line gets a very different reception over at the club in Fort Worth. I love it though. I love saying it because it's like the closest I come in my life to being a bad guy wrestling manager in like the 80s, you know? Being like, Hoboken is full of sweat hogs! You know, and then everyone shouts at you. Kind of fun. I don't think Dallas is like the most well-liked city here in Texas or on the national stage. I picked up on that in my travels because I'll tell people I'm from Dallas and then they'll tell me they don't like it. It's been happening for so long, like I no longer feel defensive about it, you know. I won't even sit up here and pretend like there aren't plenty of legitimate things to dislike about the city of Dallas, you know, but here's a weird coincidence I have picked up on. I've noticed every time I meet one of these people that claims to really hate Dallas, really outspoken about how much they hate Dallas, then I find out where they're from. It is always someplace with a way worse presidential assassination museum. Or even no presidential assassination museum. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was talking to someone from a real city. Not some flyover town, what doesn't even have a single presidential assassination museum. What is this really about, you know? You hating Dallas or you hating your town's complete lack of options when it comes to assassination-related points of interest? Little sour grapes over how Dallas was called a must-visit for any American history buff by Sad Vacation magazine. Fun fact about that joke, I have never actually been to the Assassination Museum. I'm so heartily endorsing. I feel like I had to come clean on that one, you know. Really giving it my nod here. I almost went one time, I can tell you. I almost went one time. I got as far as the door. Did y'all realize they want $18? Just to get into that assassination museum? I felt that was a little steep. And look, I don't want to come off like no broke bitch up here, all right? I want to make that really clear. I could get $18 together if I needed to. All right? Give me a couple days, move some things around. But I got it, you know, that's not the issue. It's more a matter of principle. Like, I don't know how well versed y'all are in the world of finance, but $18 all grand, that doesn't sound like a lot of money. But did you know $18 has the equal of upwards of 36 Jack in the Box tacos? Doesn't sound like so meager a sum now, does it? And it's like, I want to reflect on the legacy of President Kennedy as much as the next man, but not 36 tacos worth of reflection. Too much reflection by any measure, I would argue. I'll tell you folks, when you look like I do, like every third member of Leonard Skinner, or like if Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters managed a half-price books. Or if Jesus had been really into disc golf. When you achieve that look as I have, you know, folks make a lot of assumptions about you and your life. They assume you're some kind of gigantic pothead, you know. You probably just sit around the house all day smoking bowls, eating Cheetos, watching old episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. And that is convenient for me because I do. That's actually a very accurate little snapshot of my life at the moment. If you gleaned all that just from looking at me, fucking buy a lottery ticket. I love it. I I wasn't even lying about the Andy Griffith Show. I wasn't just saying that to sound cool in front of y'all. I'm a real fan. I know this shit. I don't want to get called out on that later, you know. Today, the episode, there was the one where a goat might have ate a bunch of dynamite. But then later it turns out he didn't. So I fell asleep at the end. Being honest with y'all. Probably shouldn't have brought it up in the first place, now that I think about it. I love that weed, though. That's where I was. Big fan. Might not have been this way. I don't know about y'all. I was in the generation where we had the DARE program. Did y'all have DARE, any of y'all? Bold approach on their part, you know? Gathering all us kids there in the auditorium, and they dared us. They dared us to just say no to drugs. Me and every member of my generation, maybe a few of y'all remember this, we stepped outside and huddled in a large field for about 15 minutes. And we came back to it when we were like, no deal. Talking it over out there, we decided we're going to see what all the hubbub is about. These drugs. This McGruff character's kind of cool. He can stay. I remember that was where I first heard the term gateway drug. You know, the idea being like, we'll grant you weed isn't that bad, but it can lead to harder drugs, bad in that sense, you know. I never really bought into that line of thinking myself simply because I was always the youngest member of my family. I always had older brothers and cousins, you know, who were having real life experiences with drugs and alcohol. Never so much matched up with what they were talking about at the old DARE assembly. I got this one cousin, his name was Catfish. That's right, Catfish. I remember Catfish, he'd say to me, like family functions and the like, he'd be like, Scott, don't you listen to these people who tell you marijuana is some kind of gateway drug. All right, the only place marijuana ever led me was to my damn pantry. You know, because of like the munchies? Then sad to say, a few years ago, that cousin, he passed away. We were cleaning out his house. We learned his pantry is where he kept all his heroin. So I got score one back for the old DARE program on that count. Generally, they had a lot of stuff wrong. In Catfish's case, though, they were almost hauntingly right. Really called out that play before it happened, Tony Romo style. No, hey, you don't have to feel bad about laughing at that joke, which contains in it the death of my cousin. I'll tell you why. A couple things you should know about the cousin in that joke. First thing, his whole family has heard me perform that joke. His mother and everything. And they love it. They think it is hilarious and well-crafted. Second thing about that cousin, I just made him up. Not a real guy at all. Almost everyone I talk about up here is real, but old Catfish, I just invented him to kill him with drugs. That story. Comedy can be a cold business like that. Sometimes. I mean, I say he's made up. He was based on a real cousin of mine, you know, who did say that thing about gateway drugs. We did find heroin in his apartment after his untimely death, but that's where the similarities end. Took over with my artistic license from there. Like, for one thing, in real life, this cousin, his name was not Catfish. All right? I heard that name on an old episode of Hee Haw. Second thing about... in real life, this guy, his family is way not okay with me doing this joke. Nah, he's made up, for real. My aunt's attorney said I have to say that from now on. At the end of the joke. Nah, he's made up, for real. Nah, he's made up, for real. I I used to never do the part he is made up. I used to never tell people he was made up. People would just leave my show feeling sad about the untimely demise of my cousin Catfish, you know? It was very funny for me. Not really anyone else. Though, you know, that's not the gig. The worst that ever happened was one time I was opening up a punk rock show in Denton, Texas with my comedy stylings. Somebody had that idea. They were like, hey, you know what I bet these punk rock kids would like to see before their punk rock music gets started? It was like 15 minutes of super low energy stand-up comedy. So I'm like, I mean, my God, this show sounds like a fucking nightmare. I'm in. That's all early comedy is, you know, you're just booking appointments to eat shit. It's terrible, you know? It's like January 16th, lose much needed self-esteem. Shit like that, you know? And man, did I. I tell you, this show, it was me and a buddy of mine doing stand-up comedy to 3 punk rock bands and their girlfriends. Not the hottest mic I've ever been on. I don't mind telling you. And then after all that, I hear through the grapevine that, in my opinion, a real punk rock band would have never been offended by that joke. All right, they wouldn't have even heard it. They wouldn't have been out in the parking lot overdosing on heroin. I've seen behind the music. I know what goes on. All right. I was watching that movie Forrest Gump the other day. You guys like that movie Forrest Gump? Hell yeah. I was hoping at least a few of you would. I love that movie. I can tell I love Forrest Gump because I watch it every time it's on TV, and every time it's on TV, it depresses the shit out of me. Very sad movie, that Forrest Gump. My God. I would argue the saddest part of all the sad parts, the life of Jenny, Forrest's childhood sweetheart. My God, what a pile of sadness that woman's life was. Her life was so sad, like even the funny parts of it are sad if you think about them. I'll tell you what I mean. Like as a kid, I always thought it was super funny in that movie how Forrest was always showing up and just immediately beating the shit out of Jenny's new boyfriend, whoever he happened to be. He was just immediately catching those hands, you know, no matter the circumstances. It was coming, you know. I always thought that was very funny as a kid, you know. As an adult watching it, I'm thinking back, like within the context of the movie, like for the character Jenny, this is a decidedly unfunny state of affairs. That's just a difficult conversation she's got to have at the beginning of every new relationship for the rest of her life. Every time she's feeling good about that new man, you know, she's got to sit him down, be like, look, I like you a lot, all right? So I want there to be no secrets in between us in this thing. So having said that, you should probably know at literally any point during our relationship, my mentally disabled ex-boyfriend, Forrest, played football at the University of Alabama on a full-ride scholarship before going over to Vietnam, where he became sort of an unkillable super soldier. Well, he could just emerge from the shadows and beat the dog shit out of you at any time. I say could, I mean definitely will. We're together for so much as a month, you have a 100% chance of catching a red-ass beatdown from this character. You see his flat top, it's already too late. Now they say like communication is the most important thing in every relationship. Not so here. In this scenario, the most important thing, keeping your head on a swivel at all times. Chin down, hands up. That's number 2. Communication may be a distant third. Now don't get me wrong, I will run over there and pull him off you when this inevitably does happen. You know, I always do. But if I'm being honest, I've never got there before Forrest has landed 8 to 10 real clean shots. I tell you, if I were a UFC referee, I'd have been fired long ago. Oh, and since I last saw him, he can run for days at a time without tiring or slowing down. Not unlike an ostrich or an Alaskan sled dog. But you know, like one that can whoop your ass real bad while the expression on his face never changes. But if you're good with all of that, living under near constant threat of being accosted and pummeled by a learning disabled billionaire shrimp boat captain who the entire Viet Cong couldn't kill, I think we could be happy together for a very long time. Hey, that's going to do it for me, guys. My name is Scott Chris. Thank y'all very much.